Favorite thing is when like the Now compilations would follow up like Nookie by Limp Bizkit with like BB Max back in here, and you're like, whoa, we're hitting like some bipolar highs and lows here on the.
All right, Mike, we're still doing AFC North teams, looking at team needs going into the offseason. And man, last week, huge announcement, the salary cap moves up by $30 million, so gives some teams some breathing room. But looking at AFC North teams, starting with Cleveland here, Mike, team needs. Going over, looks like needs offensive line. Cleveland absolutely needs offensive line.
Yeah.
They need a wide receiver. Amari Cooper is really the only offensive threat they have, and his health is questionable at best sometimes during the season. For him to stay healthy over the course of the whole season is highly unlikely, especially with his age getting up in the numbers as it is. Weird now in my point of life, Mike, saying that 30 years of age is old, because that's feeling young to me. Also, needing edge. I mean, at this point, it looks like Shelby Harris and a bunch of other defensive players are probably going to be hard to re-sign just based off of the cap space that Cleveland had going into this. They'll need to restructure contracts, but there's going to be some players that they probably aren't going to be able to hold on to defensively. Mike, what do you think is the greatest team needs for Cleveland at this point?
Yeah, I think you've done a good job breaking it down, Dirk. I mean, I think wide receiver is an important one. Obviously, we saw the Browns have their moments when Joe Flacco stepped in, but let's be honest, this was not a very dynamic passing attack this year for most of the year, and I don't think it's a sustainable thing. The Browns are obviously all in on the Watson Express.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, don't get me started.
You guys are all in on it, though, and so as a result, you've got to do what you can to make that contract work, which means weapons. And I think that they've got to look at receivers. With that said, and I'm not 100% sure, do you know what Cleveland's draft pick is?
They don't have a first round this year.
They're not in the first round. No. That's what I thought. Okay, yeah. So that's also problematic for the Browns in the sense that a lot of the top draft talent this year appears to be offensive, or at least the trends are that offensive picks are going to dominate the first 15 picks of the draft. So with Cleveland, you are looking at probably, later round picks for wide receivers, maybe someone in free agency. I don't know, Dirk. Is there anyone out there that you foresee the Browns looking into in free agency?
I gotta think that the Browns, with how deep of candidates there are in free agency at the running back position, at least adding something, because they're going to commit to Chubb coming back. And I'm all for that because he's a hell of a player, and for him to go out that way, you just don't want to see it. But let's be realistic, right? Do players come back, especially running backs, come back the same after an injury like that? I would argue no, and I think you're going to have to look at least adding some change of pace. Hunt is a free agent again this year, and Ernest Johnson went to Jacksonville last year. I mean, you're looking down the line, and look, that's what the bread and butter is for Cleveland. That's what makes them successful. So I think that is probably another one to include in there as a team need, is probably looking at some type of running back position to add. And Mike, I just think it's smart. You're gonna have to.
Yeah, Ford was pretty good though, right? I mean,
yeah, but I just don't think that he's what you're looking for. I mean, I think there's there's like 10 running backs that I can name off the top of my head that are just legitimate guys out there. You have Jacobs, you have Henry, you have Saquon Barkley, you have DeAndre Swift. I mean, let's just keep going down the list of all of the.
But you got to keep going a little further down that list because there's a price tag attached that Cleveland may not be able to tap into.
Hey man, there's $30 million of extra space, right?
Well, not for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, Dirk. I think Cleveland is in an odd position regardless, just like some other teams like the Broncos, in that they are struggling with a rough contract.
Yeah.
And as a result, you kind of have to do some Moneyball expenditures. To me, I don't really know the Cleveland's, niche fits for some of those skill positions well enough to know who they might look at down the lot, because you're going pretty far down the road of free agency to lower end type signings, but I think that's where Cleveland is going to be.
Well, and Cleveland, as of last week, there's rumors that they're willing to spend upwards of $30 million on a wide receiver alone, right? So if they're going out and they're going to spend $30 million on a free agent wide receiver, you're looking at Michael Pittman, you're looking at Mike Evans, and potentially even Calvin Ridley if they can rid Jacksonville of him as well. So
yeah,
more to follow with Cleveland.